John Byer. John and I have been friends for 40 years. Wow, time sure flies. We first met in New York City around 1977. He was living in England with his wife and moved back to New York. We became instant friends. During the 80s, both of us landed in Miami Beach and we were exercise partners. We ran usually at night along the beach and then dove into the ocean. We loved to try different things. One day I saw an article in Omni magazine about the Monroe Institute and decided to check it out. I went as you read about my adventures. John went a few weeks later. He became good friends of the Institute, including Robert Monroe. John introduced me to Mafu. He went to a seminar in California during the summer of '87. He came back with some tapes. I was intrigued. Paul McLean in one of my channeling sessions talked about Mafu before Mafu was introduced to the public. John has been a practitioner of Rolfing for many years. This is from his website. John first experienced Rolfing in 1973, absolutely amazed at its results. I sought out every person who Dr. Rolf had personally instructed, and particularly those she chose as her first students, and received many hundreds of sessions of structural integration. I'm currently honored to have the esteemed Emulet Hutchison as my primary mentor, who promised Ida on her deathbed to carry her work forward in its purest form as long as it lived. After training in Hello Work and at the Rolf Institute, I graduated from the Guild for Structural Integration in Boulder, Colorado, and have practiced in the Zuma Terrace building in Malibu since 1997. Dr. Rolf was a genius whose understanding about the body are the reason her method is uniquely effective. Whether seeking relaxation or the deepest manipulation an injury or afflict may require, Dr. Rolf's methods can be tailored for you. I deliver results. Here's a great recommendation from Greg Louganis, the famous Olympic diver. I have worked for John for over 10 years and have done Dr. Ida Rolf's full 10 series with John several times. This progressive and powerful method of sequentially freeing up the physical layers in the body truly creates results every session and generating lasting changes over time. Dr. Ida Rolf once said that her work is something that two people do together. It's hard to understand till you have had Rolf manual therapy, the active role the receiver has. I have come to this awareness with John's structure integration bodywork. John is the facilitator in my health, and I am equally integrated part in the change of my own healing process. As an adult living with HIV, John keeps me deeply in tune with the state of body, mind, and spirit that I aspire to. Besides HIV positive and now my 50, I intend to always maintain that same active lifestyle I always had. John has and continues to aid me in that goal through his work. John's body work is the best gift you can give yourself. John is terrific, dedicated, and unique in his approach. Thank you, John, as a friend and teacher. Namaste. Greg Louganis, Olympic diver. Throughout the years, we remain in contact with each other. We are on this incredible journey of life. We are all still discovering new things along on this journey of life. Yesterday I talked to John. I discovered our first challenge sessions we ever did together. I stumbled upon them when I was looking for something else. John was amazed that I had them. It was our first time, so we were real rusty. Remember, it took me a month just to ride the darn bicycle. My brother just jumped on the bike and rode away. Anyway, I'm proud that we dove in. John and I will be friends for life. I haven't seen him in years, but the connection is still there. David Schweitzer. I just got up. It's 4:04 in the morning. I'm writing early because throughout the night my mind was going over what to say about David Schweitzer. We've been friends for over 40 years. Why, I log into my computer and there's a message from David. What a synchronicity. I've known David when I lived in New York City. He lived in Hartford, Connecticut. During the 80s, we both moved to South Miami. At some point, he starts making pyramid kits. Around the same time, my wife starts building pyramid kits. They don't know each other. Both of them at the time were studying with Ramtha. They were the only two individuals building these kits. Now, David and my wife Barbara had a mutual friend in Castle Rock, Arizona. Barbara went to visit Jim about 3 times. Each time, Jim Mayhew would say, "You just missed David and David Husson," another friend of mine. Now, David Schweitzer, John Byer, and Harry Bartz introduced me to Mahfouz tapes. My dear friend Catherine, who I met at the Monroe Institute, got a job working for Shirley MacLaine. Shirley was going on a nationwide tour and giving lectures. Well, they needed a computer programmer, and I get the job. I take a plane from Miami to Los Angeles. Then I get a ride to the office. I spent the day working, and after work, they said, "We're going to a Mahfouz event. Do you want to come?" The rest is history. Isn't it amazing that in my channeling readings, I was told that I would meet Mahfouz before Mahfouz was on the scene? Now, David was visiting California for a period of time. He went to several events. I moved to the Pacific Palisades, and we would take walks in the hills. Now, there was a pyramid project that David was going to work on. Mahfouz called David Hermes. Hermes was the main architect in Egypt for building the pyramids. Now, I'm not saying David was Hermes, yet why did David start building pyramid kits? Does our DNA contain blueprints of who we were in the past? We are all stardust. We are the universe. We're just simply these funky human beings. Well, David invites me to join this project. The project is located in Sedona, Arizona. Wow, what an incredible place. I take a plane from LAX to Phoenix. David and David are there. They said, "We're going to see Zoran tonight, and would you like to come?" So now David has introduced me to both Mahfouz and Zoran. Is there synchronicity going on? Anyway, I moved to Sedona, and we all share a house together. Eventually, I moved to this incredible trailer where my backyard is the creek. I have more details in this book, but I met my future wife there. She's going to rent my trailer for a while. Both David and David meet Barbara for the first time. They finally could put the pieces of the puzzle together. Who is this David? Who is this Barbara? Personally, David has a heart of gold. I think his IQ is off the chart. He is one of those who can do anything. There are several jobs he has worked on where you need the training. Yet without the training, David comes in and performs. David has had an active acupuncture practice in Miami for many years. He has been using lasers quite successfully in his practice. David studied for a while Zen Buddhism. Personally, I think meditation helps in our daily life. Both my wife and I see David as a great example who brings heaven to earth. Frankly, I think that's the goal in life. If we all did that, then there would be heaven on earth. Meditation is not hocus pocus. Harry Bartz. It's 2:13 in the morning. I've been sleeping, meditating for an hour. I was thinking, and contemplating about the web of life with Harry Bartz. I first met Harry in LA in 1976, about 40 years ago. It wasn't until the late 70s did we come in contact with each other again. We both moved to South Florida in the late 70s. We were both involved with the same teacher. At that time, Harry was running a tree cutting business. It was great business. There was always plenty of work. Harry hired me and we became good friends. At that time, windsurfing took off in America. Harry took up windsurfing. He invited me to his house, and in his backyard, I learned how to windsurf. I bought a board and it was love at first sight. John Bayer and I were windsurfing buddies. During certain seasons, the wind would howl and you would have the time of your life. I didn't see Harry for a while. One day I bumped into him and he told me he finished a year course at the Computer Science Institute. He took basic Fortran and COBOL. I always knew I was going to be involved with computers. Even at a young age, I knew that. To make a long story short, I'm still involved 35 years later. So Harry was a catalyst. Here's the definition. In chemistry, a substance that causes a chemical reaction to occur, but is not itself involved in the reaction. Note, the term catalyst is often used to refer to the prime agent of any change. She was the catalyst for the reorganization. I find it fascinating that life's events help you to be at the right place and right time. Synchronicity was there. Harry gave me the impulse to enroll and start an incredible career. Yet it doesn't stop there. Harry was one of the ones who told me about Mafu. Fast forward a few years. Barbara and I moved into a house with Linda Graham. Linda's ex-boyfriend was Don Rockman, who in the future, 25 years later, provided the music for my first poetry music CD. It's featured on this site. Yeah, guess who's living next door? Harry Bartz. Harry made a ton of money selling computers and moved to Sedona. This was in 1987. In 1991, my family and I moved to Hawaii for 6 glorious years. I got a software engineering job at Maui Space Surveillance Site. My wife and daughter went to Maui, and I went to Portland, Oregon for a few weeks. I had a contracting job I was going to work on. In Portland, I get a call from Harry, and he tells me that Mafu was going to give a 3-day retreat in Ashland, Oregon. He was teaching about ancient Vedic meditation techniques. Now that's a subject I love and dear to my heart, so I went. In 1999, I started working with Charles Schwab as a senior software engineer. At that time, our family was living in Penn Valley, California. I was a telecommuter. Now, Penn Valley internet connection wasn't very good. In fact, it was horrible. You had to use a modem. So I started to look for a community that had a great internet connection and a great high school for my daughter. Well, Ashland, Oregon just recently installed the whole town with fiber optics. Ashland High was an incredible school for my daughter. Guess what? Harry was still living there. During 2000 to 2008, we spent a lot of time seeing Mafu. He liked me. When we first moved there, one day he got off the stage and came up to me and gave me his initiation jacket. This jacket he wore for many of his initiation. I was honored. At that time, I also was involved in a mystery school and used that jacket for the initiations. For many people, they think that channeling was a fake. Well, I met and talked to Mafu many times. We had a relationship that was deep. Like any relationships, you know one another. Yet, there were numerous times I saw Penny who channels Mafu, and said hello. She had no idea who I was. In fact, I think I spoke to her once when she was reading off the list of attendants for a seminar and said hi to each one. One day I saw her and Rob Spindler was with her. I said hi, and I was walking away. She whispered to Rob, "Who's that?" Rob said, "That's Richard Fletcher." That really gave me a sign that I had a relationship with Mafu. How can you have a relationship with someone when you never interacted with them? So it makes perfect sense for Penny to say, "Who's that? We have never interacted before." What I like about his group, that Mafu taught about kindness. He taught about compassion. He talked about meditating for the whole planet. He taught universal truths. The universe is kind. That is its nature. Mafu is kind. That is his nature. As human beings, our true nature is kindness. It is just covered up. So here was a group practicing universal truths of love and compassion. It wasn't just words. Mafu was an incredible drummer. Imagine during the winter, it's snowing, and you're on top of a mountain inside of an ashram. It's nighttime, and the wind is howling. Mafu is on stage beating these huge Japanese taiko drums. It's a sight to see. At that time and place, you can be in some remote monastery on top of a mountain in the Himalayas at night. Now, back to Harry. As you can see, Harry has had a tremendous impact in my life. Harry is very kind. In Sedona, I had little to my name, and Harry would treat me to lunch. Harry doesn't say much, like myself at times. He doesn't preach. He just smiles. He has nothing to prove. He loves to meditate. I know he is having a great experience, but he doesn't talk about it. Yet you can see it from his eyes. He is humble. He has served the Foundation for Meditative Studies for over 25 plus years. I call him a few times each year. It's good to connect with a dear friend. Friendships are God's way to connect to him. Imagine we are the universe, yet we have forgotten that fact. Friendship is God's way of saying, "I love you." Treasure your friends. We all have an aching soul that's trying to find its way home. Friendships help soothe the soul. In the fall of 1982, I went to New York City on a business trip. I stayed at a friend's house. While I was there, I heard about a good friend of mine, Paul McLean, who was channeling people's guides. I stayed at one of my best friend's house, Mark and Geraldine. They told me how Paul McLean had these incredible experiences over a period of a year and a half. At first I was skeptical and really had no clue in what they were talking about. I could care less about talking with some person who had been on Earth, left his body, and communicated from the other side. Well, I learned there's a lot more than that. Since Paul and I were friends, I wanted to check it out. I wanted to be open. Maybe something greater would come my way. I met with Paul, and he told me that for a year and a half he would leave his body. In this state, strange things would happen to him. He would hear voices and talk to guides from another dimension. He thought he was going crazy. Over time, he learned more about these experiences and came to terms with his experience. He had the ability to channel a person's guide. At this particular time in my development, I was only aware of my experience as God as a form of infinite energy. God was light, it was sound, it was the Word of God. My realm of experience was a completely different nature. For years, Paul also had these kinds of experiences. He loved to meditate also. In my first meeting with my guides, Paul was put into a trance. It was like falling asleep. He would drift away, and this incredible being would come in. His whole being would change. His voice would change to male or female, depending on the guide who was present. I was completely blown away. The information that came through was incredible. I knew it wasn't Paul because of the details of my life being described. Paul knew me, but the information that came through was very personal. Paul didn't have a clue about my life in the past. I developed a strong sense of communication with my guides. They prophesied many events in my life. One of them was about that soon in the future I would meet this entity named Mahu. He was an enlightened lord who would come and channeled by a female. I was directed to move to California. This indeed did come true. This experience came at a time that Amaji wasn't even channeling Mahu. I know a lot of people have a hard time with the channeling experience. It's true some people go to channeling so other guides can make decisions for them about their life. But my experience was different. The information that I received was incredible. I developed a relationship with my friends on the other side. Because we are so material, we have lost touch with our acute senses. Man has the ability to be aware of different dimensions. A lot of people in mental hospitals aren't crazy. They truly hear voices. Because our society can't grasp or understand these experiences, we brand them as crazy. Oracles have been around for thousands of years. I went to Paul probably 10 times in a 10-year period. All in all, I had an incredible time. I learned a lot about myself. A lot of sessions were like a psychoanalyst session. I learned how to begin to deal more directly with my life. I took the reins of my life and began to direct it in a more direct fashion. I became my own teacher. I put more faith and trust inside of myself. In the past, I would look at teachers for my guidance. I began to look at myself for my own inner guidance. I learned that God helps those first who help themselves. Below is a small excerpt of my first meeting with Paul. There are no accidents. All things which come to pass are under the will of the Almighty. The one is of good heart and of good will and of an open heart will find there is no end to the workings of the Almighty. There's never a time when your amazement will cease at the wonder of the Almighty. Always there will be new and uncharted borders. Always old things will fall away, and new and brighter, greater things will come to pass. And a time will come when all things, all present consciousness and awareness will fall away to bear a more complete and new state of consciousness awareness. And the old falling away will feel much like death, and the new will feel much like a rebirth into divine kingdom. It is always this way in the workings of the great God. There will never be a time for one who is of good heart and open heart and goodwill when love for his Creator will cease. There will be times when you wish to thank, and times when you wish to hate, and times you wish to cease your existence for pain of longing and time, when you would wish your existence to go on forever, and times you feel neglected, and times you feel the favorite son of the Almighty. The Lord Almighty will move your experience itself to make fall away all present understanding. You must not fear this death, for beyond this death of this sort is always new life, as you learned many times to this point. At times your love will be strained and felt as though it is being tested. This will be given to you by the Lord Almighty, and at times it will feel as though you can't make any step without the sense of grace behind even the smallest thing that you do. There will be times when come which you will ask yourself, where have I stepped awry? And at these times you must remember, you have been guided to precisely to the point where you have found yourself by the workings of Almighty Divine Father. Your faith is strong, for you are goodwill and good heart and open heart. You are this way because the Lord has given you this to you. And yet it is time, as always is time, for ever strengthening bond an ever greater love, an ever fervent desire, going more in each period of more and more fervent love, which enables you to carry and be about the service of the Father. For in all doings you must request, not simply know, but request that you may serve, that your moment be of service, that your life may be given greater purpose. In each moment, the service of the Almighty. And in each moment, you must ask for knowledge that you are not alone, for it is not enough to know it, but is more to ask. And having been asked to thank, and having thanked to ask again, and to offer yourself in that way which the Lord would have yourself serve. Your will and the Lord's will be of the same intent, for it is of the Lord's mercy that you are allowed and all allowed to be fulfilled in any way which they choose, so long as the love between the two remains the important thing. But those who are truly blessed, who find it within themselves to have this request of service in this way, the Lord would have you serve. This is truly a blessed thing, for even to come to this understanding is no small thing. This is perhaps the greatest level of human existence, for when the Almighty has given all free will to embark upon any road that they so choose, and one with their will, by the grace, finds it within themselves to surrender their will to that of the Almighty, regardless of the consequences, for in the surrender is the fulfillment. This is no minor thing, nor may we all even do so this thing. But these indeed are fortunate who have such a blessing to find themselves in this position. My child, you are in such a blessed state. You must always remember to be humble before God, humble before the Master, and humble before the servants of the Lord's will, giving always from your heart, from the desire to be one with the greatest thing. I am Richard, who has been called the Lion-Hearted, and you and I are a part of each other. Indeed, it may be said that you and I are the same. Indeed, it may be said that at one time we were not apart, but at one time we were the same being. But as time continues, the soul finds in its multiple parts different aspirations. Your aspirations has its duty here, while mine has my duty elsewhere. We serve in our ways as the Lord would have us serve. I here, and you there. Layla Assad. I first met Layla in Buffalo, New York in the late 70s. At that time, her name was Linda Marini. I spent the winter in Buffalo, New York. I remember never seeing the streets without snow from October to around early May. Linda has the same interests that I have. We both love ethnic food cooking and meditation. We were on the same wavelength. We once cooked a 15-course Indian feast for a fundraiser that took us a few days. We got married. I loved her family. Her dad and I got along extremely well. He just recently retired from Carrier after many years of service. He was an engineer. In his youth, I heard he was an incredible baseball player. Linda's mom was extremely kind. She made me a part of the family. I will always cherish that fact. Kindness runs in their family. Next door to Linda lived her grandparents, Nano and Nana. They came from northern Italy. Nano would tell me stories of cooking polenta in the fields in Italy. Linda's mom, Margaret, and her Nana would make polenta when we came to visit. They had this huge pot which was only used for cooking polenta, a wooden paddle, and a wooden chopping board. They would stir the polenta for about half an hour until it was the right consistency. Then they would pour it on the chopping board. They would use dental floss to cut the polenta. First time I ever saw that. Blue cheese would be served along with the polenta. Another favorite dish of the family was homemade spinach gnocchi. These are spinach dumplings with clarified butter poured over the gnocchi. On top of that is freshly grated Parmesan cheese. What I liked about their cooking was that everyone was having the time of their life cooking. They were having fun. They loved that I wanted to learn from them. Usually in most households, the man stays out of the kitchen. They welcomed me into the kitchen. Her mom and dad visited us in Miami a few times. I remember once her dad took me to the golfing range. He was an incredible golfer. Well, I wasn't. I had the opportunity when I was young. Both my Grandma Fez and Grandpa Bert were incredible golfers. They had 5 hole-in-ones between them. They would say, "How would you like to learn how to play golf?" My brother and I would say, "Granny, only old people play golf." Well, I couldn't even hit the ball. It was just spilling from the tee. Back then, our finances were low. I remember how it was a treat just to buy Haagen-Dazs ice cream. We love rum raisin. I haven't had that in years. One of my most memorable moments of my life was the birth of Leilani. After she was born, I placed her in water. As soon as I did that, she gave me this incredible smile that I will never forget. To this day, I can see her smile. Around this time, I enrolled in the Computer Science Institute. It was time to settle down and get a decent job. Working with computers was love at first sight. It felt good to know that my field was in its infancy and I was about ready to go on an incredible journey. We loved taking Leilani to the beach. She loved the ocean. We would go boogie boarding. She started around 2 years old. She wore these inflatables around her arms. We would catch a small wave and she would hold around my neck. We loved it. We would catch one wave after another. We got divorced in 1985. At that time, I didn't think anything was wrong with my marriage. I put my heart and soul into it. Yet, why did I have eyes to see? Why didn't the thermometer of life kick in and say your marriage is treading on water? I had my first astrology reading the year before, and she said, concentrate on your marriage. You might need to fine-tune it. You can never really blame the other person. We have to look inside and take responsibility. It just isn't about the faults of the other person. I really went through the ringer. I didn't think anything was wrong, yet she wanted out. I said, let's go to a marriage counselor. She wouldn't have it. Well, I'm not going to blame her. I went to a psychologist for a few sessions. After the 3rd session, she said, you don't have to come here anymore. I can see you learn fast and really want to do house cleaning on yourself. You will heal yourself. That didn't mean that 100% I was healed. I was still going through it, but the healing process was started. It's amazing the same month and year my wife Barbara got her divorce from her husband. We have been married for almost 30 years. Time heals. I'm good friends with Layla. She lives in the same town as my daughter. She's taking care of her mom. I have cherished memories of Linda and her family. I take responsibility for the lack of awareness on my part. I just found out yesterday from my daughter Leilani that her Nona passed away today. Elani's mom was taking care of her. Recently, I've been doing a lot of pondering. I have noticed that generations have carried certain traits. Nona and her family had it. Nona's mom and dad carried that. That trait is kindness. Isn't that truly a gift from God and the universe? The universe is kind. How much grace is there that we carry the traits of the universe inside of our DNA? Kindness is the source of life. Even the Dalai Lama says, kindness is my religion. As you read in the previous chapter all about the kindness Layla's family bestowed upon me, Nona led a good life. She is ready to go home. For the past 6 months, she would say, I'm ready to go home. We know when it's time to go. Ever since I was in high school, I knew I was going to be involved with computers. That's our true nature. I didn't know why, but the thought was always on my mind. I became involved in the year the PC revolution took off. I was involved with Apple and the CP/M operating systems. Those were exciting times. Then came IBM and history took its course. From these beginnings, I learned to program computers. I learned a lot in the early days. To this day, it's a never-ending journey. One fascinating thing I learned about programming is that if my program wasn't running properly, I could change a few lines in my code, compile, and link the program. Over time, the program was finished and I was satisfied. One day I realized that programming computers and life itself were on the same wavelength. If I didn't like how my life was, I couldn't go into my source code, change a few lines in how I felt, and make the necessary change. This gave me a huge empowerment in my life. I knew I could do anything. Of course, we all stumble and fall, but we pick ourselves up, dust ourselves, and carry on. Life then truly becomes exciting. No more do we feel like victims in our life, but acting participants in this incredible adventure. It's kind of amazing to watch the evolution in programming. Each year I take a look at where I started and where I am now. Programming has definitely opened the doors for my inner growth. As I was saying, even if you don't program a computer, you are programming your life consciously or unconsciously. The ball is in your hands. One thing I did was to put my thoughts on paper on where I wanted to go. Writing is an excellent way to bring the unconscious to conscious. Then take necessary action by taking one step and then another. Look at your goal, smile, and just continue to walk. In the past 10 years, I've been involved in writing programs for the Miami Beach Police, the Navy SEALs, and Rockwell International. I've built all kinds of systems. Programs have shown me from the invisible, the end result is the visible. All of creation and man's world stems from the visible thought. The power of thought can create anything. Mix love and harmony into it, and you have a beautiful creation. Unfortunately, in our present society, man uses thought mixed with greed and power. We don't look at the fact we are custodians of this earth, and our actions should reflect that. Man has lost touch of who he is. Maybe we should stop and smell the roses. Life would be truly exciting. If our nation as a whole would just stop for a few moments each day and live life as a gift, this world would flourish. With the power of love, we could see it we are united by a common thread. We could change our whole society, government, the arts, and most important, ourselves. We would know we can create anything. Just imagine years ago a young Da Vinci building plans to fly. Years later is a common occurrence. Everything we do comes from thought. Over time, our dreams will come true. While we're on this subject, meditation brings man in harmony with the universal thought. The entire universe is created by universal thought. The human being has the capability to be in harmony and communicate with universal thought. All the great masters from the past had this ability. By being in contact and communication with this universal thought, man becomes truly wise. This is a state of being, a state of existence. Man has this kind of capability. The human circuit is designed for man to live in total harmony with the universe. Mankind has closed these doors. The majority of the world has no idea the kind of capability we have. We can have the power of the universe surging through us and walk around us, interact in society. Meditation has the power to open up the circuits and reveal to us who we truly are. It is very natural. It brings us a joy, a sense of humor, and appreciation with life. It shows us who we truly are. To conclude with this chapter, I have a dream that someday this whole world has the ability to be the whole universe, be conscious of this fact, and be in a human body. We would all be totally free. Man would truly be a divine being. From there, we would create a grander dreams. Man has dreamed for eons to live forever. My question to man, if we have the same addictions we have today, the health problems, etc., we want to live forever? Immortality, to be immortal. This has been wished for man for a long time. What is immortal? Is there something inside of us which is, was, and will always be? I once had a teacher who defined soul as subject to universal life. Each one of us contains the spark of creation. The power of the whole universe lies inside of you. The stars, black holes, galaxies, and universes upon universe contain the same power inside of you. Yet we go on this life totally ignorant of what kind of potential. We grow up, go to school, marry, have children, retire, and then die. What is the purpose of this creation? Does mankind have the potential to rediscover and tap into the mystery of life? Are we going after the mystery backwards by sending satellites into the far reaches of the universe and forgetting who we are? Have there been messengers in the past, whom we call prophets, who gave to the people of the time ways to rediscover their divinity? Why does the East meditate? These are the kinds of questions we should ask. Is there something going on that I'm not aware of? Is this merely a materialistic society where the end justifies the means? Will war always exist? To solve any problem first, we must know the right question. We perceive ourselves as so smart, but are we? At times humanity has fallen into the trap that is, what is yours? I will take it. If you don't convert to my way of thinking, I will fight over it. God is on my side. Show me where God isn't. Is there a new intelligence yet to be discovered? Or is there an ancient intelligence waiting to be rediscovered? What really is intelligence? To the Western man, Einstein was intelligence. To the Africans, a shaman is intelligence. Is there a supreme intelligence that pervades? Is energy itself a type of intelligence? If so, is it conscious? Is a car, a picture frame, a computer, or any innate object, does it possess a universal state of consciousness? We live in a state of separation. There's myself, and everything outside of ourselves is separate from one. Who are we, once again? We even separate our body from our mind from our spirit. We live in such a dichotomy. I saw on the news a few days ago a newscaster talking about the medical benefits of acupuncture. At the same time, the other two newscasters were acting like kindergartners. You could see how immature they were. Because something was different and unique, they had to ridicule it and make a big joke out of it. They were subconsciously saying, "Look how great we are, and the Eastern world is so backwards." How many times has something new come along and man has totally ridiculed it? How intelligent are we? Galileo was excommunicated from the church because he had such radical ideas for his time. Yet in our present day, an ordinary child knows that the Earth is not the center of the solar system. Our present day school systems not teach us to be different and to think different. We go through our whole lives memorizing, yet never thinking, what is my purpose of being here? Society has done a good job of programming us. I believe that Western man needs to show himself down and find out who he really is. We live our lives on the subconscious mode. Wake up, get out of bed, put a brush over my head. Our whole day is so regimented. Most people only live for the weekend or for the vacations. Work is something we have to do. We are so far removed from ourselves that we have forgotten who we are. Man has the potential of being in harmony with the whole universe. If we were, we would never kill the animals on this earth. Every day an animal is being extinct due to man's ways. We believe we have the right to control the world the way we see it. Because we are so removed from our own selves, we are all drowning. Yet at the same time, we are all so proud of it. Our modern day religion is business and money. In our modern society, these two forces control the outcomes of our society. Ethics and morals have changed drastically in the business world. A couple of days ago at work, I overheard a discussion at work how one individual will kill someone for $5 million. How can our society live like that? Obviously, for some, money is worth more than life itself. If you had all the money in the world, would you be happy? We still think that money can solve all our problems. Sure, money is nice to have, but true happiness is worth more than all the wealth on this planet. Our society is getting so completely complicated and sophisticated that we need to have a simpler lifestyle. In the 50s, the father went out to work while the mother stayed at home watching the kids. Only 30 years later, both husband and wife work. We still think that technology brings more quality time together. Our economic climate does not allow us true freedom. Is there a way to combine a simpler lifestyle with technology? In Europe and South America, the average vacation for a worker is 4 months to 6 weeks. In the United States, the average is 2 weeks. As a society, we live for those 2 weeks. Yet in 2 weeks, can we as a society totally relax? It takes about 2 weeks just to relax. I remember in high school, I was told in the future, man would work less. With our current situation today, 2 people need to work just to survive and maintain their current existence. Have we ever stopped for once and seen how ludicrous this is? This wheel just goes on and on. Can mankind get off this wheel and direct our energy towards something more beneficial for ourselves and the planet? One day, after coming from work from the naval base, I closed my eyes and was carried to this particular pool on this planet named Haruna. This particular pool was nice and warm. This planet reminded me a lot like Sedona, Arizona. The planet's soil was the same, red like earth. I remember a few beings in the water. The water felt so incredible. Stress would just ooze off. Amaji was there with a few other beings. I felt like my soul was completely nourished. Since that time, I've heard Amaji talk about the sands are real. I never told her about this story. The experience was so incredible. It was working on such a deep level. When I came back, I felt so fresh and alive. I felt I truly bathed in the fountain of youth. One day, I was meditating when I had this beautiful experience. I was taken to this place where I saw one of my past lives a long time ago on a planet called Malada. Here was this beautiful child playing with other children. There was so much love and harmony in the air. Our bodies were a little bit like Casper, the friendly ghost. We had huge gold eyes. We were playing this beautiful game. Each child was creating this beautiful music in the sky with their hands. They would just do a swish of the hands, and this beautiful rainbow would appear in the sky. Not only a rainbow would appear, but music would accompany the rainbow. The fun part was that each child's rainbow would be a part of the greater whole. The end result would be an orchestra of music and rainbows playing in perfect harmony. We'd all just dance and laugh and giggle. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. My sister was Catherine, a dear friend of mine. Life was so full of harmony. I was shown something ominous was going to happen to this planet. My next reflection, I remember, was the planet was being destroyed, and somehow I was placed in this ship headed to Earth. Such a tremendous shock took place that each of us were induced into a timeless sleep. We were heading towards Earth, towards a land called Egypt. The next vision I had was I was a being from another dimension, helping to bring the vision of enlightenment to Egypt. Because I came from Maladic, my body was Earth-like. I had the ability to become one with the whole universe and still be conscious at the same time like a limited body. The pyramids were built at this time around a great being named Ratabin. He was an incredible being who rescued us from Maladic. Ratabin and I were great friends together. We would laugh and play throughout the universe. We knew we were totally free. My mission at that time was to teach the people in the pyramids the fundamental aspect of transcending this body. There is a way for the human consciousness to vibrate at such a level that this body will become light and enter a universal dimension. In this state, the human consciousness becomes universal consciousness. Through a period of time, man can learn the secret of life. Each one of us has this capability. We have simply forgot this. This is 34,000 years ago. Years later, I met my friend Rajapan through a channel named Amaji. Amaji brought in a beautiful entity named Mafu. Mafu, or Ratabin, is a being much grander than we can imagine. He is bringing wisdom to this planet which is never seen before. I am simply watching this incredible game being played out. Each one of us can partake in this and see for ourselves the grandness of this game. Vision soon ended. I remember at one retreat I went to see Mafu. At this particular retreat, Mafu was pairing up couples for a meditation he wanted us to do. Mafu placed me with this middle-aged lady. I knew there was a reason behind this. During the meditation, I had this incredible vision that this lady was my mother on Maladic. Tears of joy was flowing. Both of us recognized who we truly were. mother and son were reunited once again. The reason I really love Mapu is that I now have a friend from the other side to assist me in my own personal development. We all have such incredible coaches. We have to do the work. In this game, we all have to be participants. We can't be at the sidelines. The coach will inspire us and direct us, but we have to shoot the ball.